What is your full name?
My full name, Donald Hart Bowman.
Where and when were you born?
I was born October the 1st, 1924, in San Antonio, Texas.
How old are you right now?
I'm 93.
Do you feel like you're 93?
Yes.
What does 93 feel like?
Old. It makes me feel old and decrepit. I just, I don't have a lot of energy.
What branch of the military were you in?
I was in the United States Marine Corps.
What division, regiment, and company were you in?
I was in Headquarters Company, 3rd Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment, 2nd Marine Division.
And what was your job in headquarters?
I was in what they call BN2, which is Battalion Intelligence.
So what was your job?
I was a scout in the intelligence unit. I was a scout. I was assigned to a rifle company as a scout.
What company?
I Company.
Tell me about the job of a scout.
My job was to report back to Headquarters Company on anything I learned about the enemy up ahead.
What kind of things were you looking for?
Well, I was looking for the units that we were up against, what Japanese units we were up against, and how strong they were, and what were we facing.
Where did you see combat? What islands?
I was on Guadalcanal, Tarawa, and Saipan.
Were you ever wounded?
Yes.
Where?
On Saipan, right on the beach.
What happened?
I think it was a grenade. I was wounded in the thigh with shrapnel. I have shrapnel wounds in my thigh.
Take me through what happened. What were you doing when you were hit?
I was lying on the beach. I hadn't been there very long, and that's when a grenade hit me.
Did that take you out of the war?
Yes, that took me out of the war. They took me off the beach and put me aboard ship.
How severe were your injuries?
Well, I was in a hospital at Hawaii for several weeks, but it wasn't. I don't consider it. It was in my thigh, and I have some scarring there, but I don't think it was. It wasn't what I consider a serious wound.
Did you carry a weapon?
Did I? Yes, I carried an M1.
What did you think about the M1?
I thought it was a wonderful weapon, wonderful rifle.
Were you a good shot? Were you a good shot?
Yes, I was what it called a sharpshooter. I shot sharpshooter in boot camp. So I was better than average, I'd say.
As a scout, were you expected to engage the enemy?
No, not really. My main job was to get information back to the command post as to the enemy's disposition.
Did you ever get into any firefights?
Did I what?
Get into any firefights?
Firing fights? Well, I fired my weapon several times. But I was never in a real heavy combat situation, no.
What about on Tarawa?
That was a brutal battle, and we were in reserve. The 6th Marine Regiment was in reserve. We didn't think we would have to go in, but the other units took such fearsome toll that we had to go in. So we did finally land, but the other units took the brunt of that battle.
What do you remember about the fighting on Tarawa?
I just remember the number of dead people around the island, both Marines and Japanese. It was a brutal battle, and a lot of people were killed on that island.
What do you remember about the dead bodies?
There were too many Marines. I just remember that. But you after this was my 3rd combat. You sort of get used to death, but still, it was appalling to see all those dead Marines on Tarawa.
Tarawa was a 3-day battle. It was a 3-day battle. What day did you get there?
I think it was the 2nd day, I believe. It's kind of hazy in my mind, but I think it was the 2nd day. I was in the 3rd Battalion, 6th Regiment, and that's a matter of records, so you can find out from that.
Did you see combat on Guadalcanal?
Yes, I mean some, not a whole lot. We came in and the Army was already there, and we relieved the Army, and there wasn't no, we did not see a lot of combat on Guadalcanal.
Where did you see the most of your combat?
Well, I think Tarawa, because I was on my Saipan. I was wounded right on the beach, so they took me back off. So I guess Tarawa was what I saw the most.
You were born in San Antonio.
Yes.
Did you grow up there?
Yes.
What do you remember about growing up in San Antonio?
My father was a small dairyman. My older brothers, I had 3 older brothers. They all went to college. That left me with my father, and I had to run the little dairy farm. And that's what I mostly remember. My father and I milked the cows, and my mother fixed the milk, and then we delivered the milk. That's what I remember.
What do you remember about the Great Depression?
Not much. We weren't. I think that we were poor people, but we had plenty to eat. We lived on a farm, and we had plenty of milk, and we did okay. I didn't do a lot of suffering.
What do you remember seeing around you that made you realize there was a depression going on?
To do what now? Lean on?
When you were growing up, what do you remember seeing around you? Things that made you realize there was a depression.
I really was too young to really understand it, to be frank with you. It never really affected me that much.
When you were growing up, what kind of things would you do for fun?
We played baseball. I tell you the truth, I had to work pretty hard as a kid. My father had this small dairy farm, so I didn't get to do a lot of playing, frankly.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Thomas Edison High School in San Antonio.
Did you graduate?
Yes.
What year?
I think it was 1942. I believe it was. Yeah. Well, wait a minute, Betty Wren. I joined the Marine Corps in May of 42, and I graduated before then. So it must have been June of 41. I guess I graduated in June of 41.
How did you hear about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
On our radio. Well, you know, we had radios back then.
What was that like to hear?
It was startling and frightening.
Take me through. How did you end up in the service?
How did I end up where?
How did you end up in the service? How did you end up in the Marines?
In Marines? I saw a movie. I forget the name of the movie. It was about the Marines, though, and it impressed me a whole lot. And I decided that's what I wanted to do, is be a Marine. That movie had a lot of impact on me. It really did. I forget the name of it, but that's why I joined the Marine. That movie induced me to join the Marines.
How old were you when you joined?
17.
Did you need to get your parents'
Oh, yes.
permission?
Yes, I did.
And they agreed?
Yes, they did.
Were they upset?
Yes, but I was persistent. I was a persistent kid. And yes, they had to sign for me.
Did you join the Marine Corps because of the uniform?
No, I think it was mostly, well, that had some effect, I guess. I was just a kid, and I think I saw a movie about the Marines, and that had some effect on me, yeah.
Was that before or after Pearl Harbor?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I don't remember.
So you get your parents' permission.
Now, well, Pearl Harbor was December of 41. I joined the Marines May the 7th, 42.
You get your parents' permission to join.
I had to because I was only 17.
And then you join. Where do they send you?
San Diego, California.
For what? For what?
For what? Boot camp.
Take me through a typical day of boot camp.
I was only 17, but I was a big kid. I was tall, so they assigned me to lead a platoon. I was a platoon leader in boot camp, although I was one of the youngest ones in my platoon. And so I was a platoon leader, which didn't really mean anything. I mean, but there were a lot older men in my platoon that I was the leader of.
Talk to me about the difficulties of boot camp. The physical difficulty.
I think I did pretty well in boot camp. Boot camp has a bad reputation, but I was a platoon. I was a squad. I was a leader of a squad, and I did pretty good in boot camp.
But what kind of physical activities did they have
Oh,
you do?
oh, they, gee, well, it's been so long ago.
The marching.
Huh?
Marching.
Yeah, I can't remember too much about that, but there was a lot of physical activity involved in boot camp. Yes, running, and doing a lot of exercises and stuff. But I did pretty good in boot camp. I was, like I say, I was head of a platoon of a platoon in blue, not of a unit in the platoon, and I did pretty good in boot camp.
Take me through. How do you get overseas?
How did I get overseas? After boot camp, I was sent to Camp Elliott in California. This is in California, Camp Elliott, and I was assigned to the 6th Marine Regiment. And the 6th Marine Regiment was part of the 2nd Marine Division. The 1st Marines were already over there at Guadalcanal. We relieved the 1st Marine Division, the 2nd Marine Division did. But I was assigned to Headquarters Company and Battalion Intelligence. They call it BN2.
Why? Why did they choose you?
I had a pretty good IQ. I think maybe that had something to do with it. I did. I had a good IQ. And I think that had something to do with them assigning me to Battalion Intelligence.
Did you volunteer?
Hmm?
Did they choose you or did you volunteer?
Oh, they chose me. Yeah.
So, talk to me about going to Guadalcanal.
All right. I was in the 3rd Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment, which is part of the 2nd Marine Division. And we went overseas. There were 4 boats that were passenger boats, that took us. They call them the Unholy Four. I was aboard the Adams. There was Adams, the Crescent City, and I forget the other 2, but anyway, there were 2 others. And we went. We were aboard the Adams. My 3rd Battalion, 6th Marine, was aboard the Adams ship. And anyway, we relieved the 1st Marine Division on Guadalcanal. They did the heavy duty work on Guadalcanal. The 2nd Marines were, and they relieved them. That's all. They did. We didn't have near the fight that they did.
Talk to me about your combat experiences on Guadalcanal.
And it's not a whole lot to tell you because, like I say, the 1st Marine Division had done the heavy work. And I was in Battalion Intelligence, which was I carried a rifle, but I wasn't a rifleman. My job wasn't to kill Japanese. My job was to do intelligence work. And I was a scout assigned to I Company in the 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines. And my job was to report back to headquarters any information that they considered valuable,
Did you do any scout work on Guadalcanal?
Yes, I did. I sometimes went out on scouting missions in front of the lines, yes. And my job was to lead those missions, really. And I had to do a lot of map reading, I had to learn map reading, but yes, I went on some of those scouting missions in front of the lines, and we reported back to headquarters what we found.
Tell me about some of the things that you found.
Well, we found some Japanese that we were engaged. We engaged, a few. But gee, you're talking about a long time ago. This is kind of hazy in my mind right now.
You sound like you're doing pretty good.
Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. But yeah, I did some. My job was really to do a lot of map reading. I was supposed to be an expert on map reading, and my job was to go with a captain who led the patrols and let him know where we were, you know. And but I was just a kid. I was only 17 years old, but I had a pretty good knowledge of map reading, and I could pretty well tell where we were and how to get back to our, you know, our unit.
What was the closest you got to the Japanese infantry?
Well, we took some prisoners, and my job was supposed to interrogate those prisoners. So, you know, in an intelligence unit, I learned a little Japanese. Not enough really to hold a good conversation, but I could speak still a little Japanese. Anato no namae wa nan desu ka? Anato no namae wa nan desu ka? I'm saying, what is your name? Watashi no namae wa Bowman desu. My name is Bowman. But my job was supposedly to interrogate them. But I was on a very low level. Now, I was, you know, in battalion intelligence.
What kind of things would you ask the Japanese?
We were supposed to ask them about their units, you know, what units were we facing, the name of the units, and so forth, you know. Find out what we were facing mainly. That's what I was supposed to do. Find out what's up ahead. How many Japanese are there? What units are there?
Would the Japanese, would they give up that information?
I guess they did, if I could, you know, best I could understand them. I wasn't an expert in Japanese. I picked up some Japanese, but I wasn't really a qualified interpreter. I was on the lower level. I was in battalion intelligence. Most of that intelligence was done up in the higher level division, you know. It was pretty basic Japanese that I learned.
Describe to me the terrain on Guadalcanal.
It was jungle, strictly jungle, real heavy growth, jungle growth. And there was, my unit was posted on the beach, right on the beach. And there was a road ran right along by the water. And that's where we were. That's where the 3rd Battalion, 6th Marine was. They were right on the beach.
Talk to me about the preparation for Tarawa.
About the what?
The preparation for the Battle of Tarawa.
Well, we moved out. We went back to Hawaii after Guadalcanal, Oahu, and we made practice landings, you know, on some of the islands around there. And that's about all I remember. This happened a long time ago.
Describe to me the terrain of Tarawa.
It was a small island, coral island. And the coral, of course, over the years had gotten ground up, and it was kind of a white color. And it was a very small island. damn, you could almost throw a rock across it. Uh, and it was heavily fortified. I mean, the Japanese had really fortified it with logs and stuff. It was, but and of course our battleships had done some heavy-duty damage to the island.
What do you remember about the naval bombardment of Tarawa?
About the what?
The naval bombardment. The naval bombardment. The Navy, it shot the guns.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my Lord. What the Navy did?
Describe to me.
Oh, Lord. All the battleships and cruisers and destroyers, they spent a long time throwing shells on that little island. We thought it was going to sink. I mean, they threw heavy 16-inch shells on that island for hours. And then cruisers would come in, and then destroyers. Destroyers would move in close. I remember a lieutenant saying, all you guys are going to have to do is go up there and pick up palm fronds. They're going to sink that damn island, you know. I mean, they threw all kinds of heavy ammo on that island. But, the Japanese were dug in. And it was amazing how many of them survived that heavy shelling. And if you've ever seen a battleship throwing shells out there, it's amazing.
What does it look like?
I mean, it's just, they're throwing up stuff, explosion after explosion, I mean, you think, Lord, and I remember that one of the lieutenants, all you guys are going to have to do is go in there and pick up palm fronds, which of course wasn't the case. The Japanese were dug in. But a bombardment like that is something spectacular. I mean, it's a coral island, and when those 16 shells hit, it threw up all kinds of clouds. It was a fearsome thing to see.
Talk to me. Did you see the first wave go in on Tarawa? Did you see?
I'm trying to remember now. I think I must have, because we were allowed to be out on the ships, we were out there, and I'm sure we must have seen them go in. Yeah, they went in on Higgins boats, and that's what we went on later on.
And the first wave, when they were going in, did you see what happened to them?
Well, I saw some of them. Yes, I saw some of them get hit with mortar fire, and yes, I saw some. Yes. It was pretty bad. Yeah.
So you came to Tarawa on the second day. You believe you came on the second day.
I think it was the second. It could have been the third day, but it was either the second or third day, yeah.
So when you got to Tarawa, you were in a Higgins boat?
Yes.
What do you remember seeing when you hit the beach?
I just, I don't just see, it's just an island, and it was heavily fortified. But that's about all I remember. I just,
What did the Japanese emplacements, what did they look like?
The place was heavily fortified. I mean, they had dug in and coconut logs. They had really heavily fortified it. But our battleships and cruisers had done a lot of damage to the island.
Tell me about some of the times you took on fire.
I didn't take on a lot of fire on Tarawa. I was a battalion in battalion intelligence, but I don't recall coming under a lot of heavy fire. I think our artillery and battleships had done their best to keep it down.
You mentioned earlier that you fired your rifle a lot.
I didn't have to fire my job wasn't really to fire my rifle a lot. My job was to get information and pass it back to headquarters. So I didn't fire. I'm sure I fired it some, but I wasn't a combat person. I was an intelligence gatherer. That was my job, main job.
Did you do,
I can't tell you that I ever killed anybody on Guadalcanal nor Tarawa.
do you remember the scout work that you did on Tarawa?
No, I really can't remember. I can't remember too much about it. Things moved so fast. I mean, it was a very small island, and we moved so fast, I can't remember a whole lot about that. I don't think that I was very useful, to be frank with you, on Tarawa as far as intelligence gathering. I took some prisoners back to. We took a few prisoners, not too many. I mean, they didn't surrender much. But I do remember taking some prisoners back to headquarters to be interviewed, and that's about all I can remember. I don't remember being very useful.
What did the Japanese soldiers look like?
Well, they're small, squat, small people, but they're the Japanese. They look very sullen, very mean looking, and they were fierce fighters. There's no question about it. The Japanese were a formidable enemy, and I don't remember they were smiling or they were a rough looking bunch.
Did they look emaciated?
No, I don't think so, and I don't think they were. I don't think they were emaciated.
Did you pick up any souvenirs?
I'm sure I picked up some on Guadalcanal. Yeah, I picked up a machine gun on Tarawa. The Japanese had an air-cooled machine gun. It was a really fine weapon, and I did. I picked up a little. You grab it by the handle, and I took it aboard ship. And when I got aboard ship, I sold it to a sailor so I could go to the PX and get some stuff.
Did you ever see Marines go souvenir hunting for gold teeth?
That what now? About my teeth?
Did you see Marines go gold hunting?
Yes, I think so. Guadalcanal, yes, I think the Marines did some of that. And I think they got criticized by their superiors for it.
Did you see it?
I saw them go out, and but I never did that myself. I wasn't interested in gold teeth.
So
I wasn't a goody boy. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't go looking for any gold teeth. No.
Tarawa, how big of an island are we talking?
Very small island. Good Lord.
Like
in width. I was going to say you could almost throw across it. No, but that's an exaggeration. But it's a very small island. It's a coral island, and
could you actually throw a rock across the island?
No, I couldn't throw a rock across. I'm exaggerating. I couldn't do that, but it is a very small island.
Like from here to that.
See, it's been so long now. You got me.
It's only been 75 years.
Yeah, I really can't tell you. You can look it up and find out on a map what it is. It's a very small. The island we're talking about is Betio, Betio, Betio. Tarawa consists of more than one island, and the main island that was fortified so heavily was Betio, Betio.
After Tarawa, talk to me about the preparation for Saipan.
Yeah. Boy, you're going back a long time.
They send you to Hawaii.
They sent me back to the Big Island, Hawaii, and we made some landings, practice landings there in Higgins boats, and I went into Tarawa on one of these track vehicles, well, not a Higgins boat, but one of these, what do you call them, amphibs. But I went into, what are we talking about, the island? The next island. Saipan. I went in on a Higgins boat. You know what a Higgins boat is? It's I think this boat had a ramp. Some of them don't have. You go over the side, but I think we had a Higgins boat that had a ramp, and you run out the front of it. If they drop the ramp, you run out the front of it.
The 6th Marine Regiment, they took heavy losses on Saipan.
They were in the assault. Yes, they were.
So, what do you remember about the invasion of Saipan?
I just remember the heavy naval artillery that was thrown on that island. I mean, they looked like they were going to sink the damn island. It was all those battleships and cruisers and destroyers. The battleships way off, cruisers closer, the destroyers up real close. And they threw so much heavy artillery on there, you didn't think there'd be anything alive. But, of course, there was. Okay.
I'm talking about Saipan.
Yeah, I'm talking about Saipan.
Did you take on fire going into Saipan?
There was some fire on the beach, but I was wounded. Yes, I was wounded by I think it was an artillery shell, shrapnel.
No. What did you go to Saipan on?
I think I went to Saipan on a damn track.
When you were making your way into the island, did you see other Amtraks getting hit?
I can't remember that. I don't remember seeing that. I remember seeing artillery fire, but I don't remember seeing any Amtraks hit. The place was littered with dead Japanese. And when it came time to eat, we were eating what they call sea rations. And then later on, they came out with something else in a box. But anyway, it got so that, and these Japanese had been there dead Japanese had been there for a while, and there were worms all over. And it got to the point where you could eat right near them, and it didn't bother you. I mean, so many people were dead, you got used to it. Oh, Lord, yeah. I think I had a good buddy killed on Guadalcanal. He was in my unit, and I'm not sure if I ever saw him or not, but I saw some dead Marines on Guadalcanal.
What's that like to see a dead
Not
Marine?
Not good at all. That's pretty bad. We had those camouflage units, wear uniforms, and they were very distinctive. When you saw them, you knew they were Marines. It wasn't a pleasant thing.
Can you ask them about the cave again?
Honey,
Just happened to tell you that story.
how did you were in some unit that y'all would find these Japanese in the caves.
Pardon?
You were, somehow or another, you guys were bringing these Japanese out of the caves. You would go get them out of the caves.
Yeah.
Where was that? Where they were in the caves?
I'm trying to think. That must have been... no.
Not Saipan.
Wait a minute. Must have been Guadalcanal. I mean, no one. I don't remember.
I don't think they had caves on Tarawa.
I don't think so, no.
And you were only on Saipan that day.
Yeah.
So it must have been Guadalcanal.
Must have been Guadalcanal, yeah.
So can you tell us about going into the caves?
I can't remember too much about it.
Just tell us that one story about the Japanese soldier with the run.
About the what?
Tell him about the story of the Japanese soldier with the dysentery.
The Japanese soldier what?
With the dysentery.
Oh, that was a prisoner.
Yeah. Just tell me.
Well,
that,
he was.
Tell me that story from the beginning, please.
Well, it's just that, one of my jobs as in battalion intelligence was to capture Japanese and then to take them back to headquarters to be interrogated. And these Japanese, a lot of them had dysentery. And they had to stop several times because of this dysentery on the way back to, headquarters. I felt sorry for them, really. I mean, it was pitiful.
How would you go about capturing a Japanese soldier?
Well, my job wasn't so much capturing them as take charge of them once they were captured. Most of the capturing was done by our riflemen up ahead. And they would turn the prisoners over to me then, and I would take them back to headquarters.
Did any of the Japanese prisoners try to escape?
No, they didn't. No, they did. I never saw one try to escape. I've seen this, and it's no credit to the Marine Corps, but I've seen Marines talk a Japanese out of a cave, and then I've heard these Marines say, "Run, run, run, run," and the Japanese would be scared, start running, and the Marines would kill him. I've saw that too often. That was not a credit to the Marine Corps, really.
What did you think about that at that time?
I was disgusted with it. I didn't approve of that at all. I was not a cruel person, and to see those Japanese prisoners killed like that. You've got to understand, though, that what these Marines that did this, what they had seen their buddies killed and wounded, and so you have to consider that too,
What buddies, Don? Tell about some of your buddies that you knew. How about this little guy?
Huh?
Don't
I can't hear what you're saying, Betty Ray.
I'll holler.
Huh?
Tell them about some of your buddies. How about the little guy from West Virginia?
What about him?
Tell him about him. He was in there with you. Little short guy.
One of my let me see.
Hang on.
One of my one of the recruits that we brought in, after Guadalcanal, we had to bring in more people. And one of the people that they brought into my little intelligence unit was a little guy named Edward Elijah Oakes. He was about 5'3" tall, very strong kid. He was from a coal mining district, and he was real young. He was, I don't think Eddie was, if he was 16 or 17, he had to be 17 to get in the Marine Corps, I guess. But he was only about, I was a tall kid. I was 6'4". Eddie was about 5'3" tall. But he was real strong kid. He came from a coal mining district in West Virginia. What was the name of that place?
I'll tell you.
Anyway, why in the world they assigned Eddie to the intelligence unit, I don't know. But he was my assistant. Here I was a PFC, and I had an assistant. It was Eddie Oakes. You ought to hear him try to speak the Japanese language. Nato no namawe nandeska. I've asked, what is your name? Eddie would say, I want to know your name. That's all he could say. He couldn't handle Japanese. He couldn't handle English. He was a good kid, though.
What happened to him?
Well, he survived, and I later on I went to his home in West Virginia. What was the name of that place? It was a coal mining place, and I kept up with him after the war. I don't know. I guess he's not alive now, is he? Yeah. Edward Elijah Oakes.
Now, can you ask him about the guys who... Take me through how you were wounded on Saipan.
How I was wounded?
Take me through the story.
I can't remember. Now, you're talking about a long time ago. I'm sorry, I can't.
Remember, you got onto the beach.
Yes. Yes.
How long were you on the beach?
I don't remember. It wasn't very long. Wasn't very long. I'm sure it was a mortar shell that got me. A mortar.
Not a grenade.
Huh?
Not a grenade?
I think it was a mortar, I believe.
I think that's a shell he has in his leg now.
I believe, a mortar shell. I think.
So you were in an Amtrak, right?
Oh, I was on the beach, lying on the beach when I was hit.
And you were hit with what?
Well, shrapnel.
From?
I think it was a mortar, I believe. You know, mortar? I believe. That's all I could figure. I don't remember. I don't think it was a grenade. I think it was a mortar.
How close did the mortar land to you?
Well, it landed pretty close. I mean, it had to put the shrapnel in my...
What do you remember about the pain?
About what?
The pain.
Japan.
The pain.
Did it hurt?
Oh, the pain? There wasn't a whole lot of pain that I remember. I don't know. I don't remember.
Did your brothers, did they serve in the war?
Yes, both of my brothers participated in the war.
What were your brothers' roles in the war?
My older brother was a major in the Air Force, and he was a communications expert, and he spent a lot of time in China. My other brother was an artilleryman in the Army, and he was in France during the war. My brother John.
He was killed.
When he killed, John was killed, wasn't he?
Your brother John was killed?
Huh?
John was killed.
John was killed, wasn't he, honey? Yeah. My brother John was killed during the war.
What was that like? How did you find out about John's death?
I'm not sure. I think maybe I was over. I'm not sure what. I don't remember. I think.
You remember? You came home after you had been wounded?
Yeah.
And that's when you found out, and your mother and dad were so upset you didn't spend your whole 30 days at home?
And while I was at home, they notified my parents?
By the time you got home, they had been notified, and that's how you...
I didn't find out till I got home. Okay.
What do you remember? What were your folks like?
My what?
What do you remember when you found out John was killed?
Well, I was very upset, of course. I don't know. I was never close to John. John and I we fought a lot, and I never was close to him, but I still loved him. He was my brother. And the impact on my parents was very devastating. And I think I remember being on furlough, and it was a miserable time because my brother had just been killed.
That's it, yeah.
I didn't have a good time on the furlough.
How much older was John?
He was 5 years older than me.
And you weren't too close?
Hmm?
You weren't very close?
No.
What kind of person was John?
John went to Texas A&M and graduated from Texas A&M with a degree in entomology. He was a kind of a peculiar guy. When he was younger, he had a butterfly collection, a very elaborate butterfly collection. But John had a streak of cruelty in him, and he took it out on me. I was a younger one, and so we didn't have a very good relationship. I had a good relationship with my older brother, my oldest brother, Bill. But John had a cruel streak in him, and still I had a lot of respect for him. He was smart, and we became good friends after he went in the service, and we used to correspond. And yeah, it was a blow to me when he was killed. Yeah.
How old was he when he was killed?
Let's see.
He would have been 24.
He was in his early 20s. Yeah.
Did you ever find out how he was killed?
Yes, I think we did. I forget how it was. I think it was a German 88 killed him. I think John was in the artillery, and he was in the observation post, and the Germans spotted him. And they dropped an 88 millimeter shell on top of his observation post. So he was blowing up.
Where is he buried?
He's buried in France, isn't he? I think he's buried in France.
Have you ever visited the grave?
No, I haven't been over there. I don't think my parents have either. I haven't been over there.
Who has?
I've never been to Europe.
Who has been there and told you about it?
To Europe?
Who went to visit John's grave?
I did?
Not you. Mark.
Okay. I said,
Remember?
he asked me if I did. I didn't.
His son-in-law.
I didn't, no.
No, Mark found
Mark
it.
did, okay.
Yeah.
What do you miss the most about John?
Well, I remember him. You know, we didn't have a good relationship. He sort of picked on me. I was the youngest, and I didn't have a very good relationship with him. But then later on, during the war, we did correspond, and I think we made amends. You know, made friends. But he was a graduate of Texas A&M in entomology, and he kept an elaborate butterfly collection and bugs too, you know, which he all named every one of them with their scientific names. He was real smart, real intelligent. John had been injured during when he was young. He had a little scarring too, and it affected how he lived. But I was closer to my older brother Bill than I was to my brother John.
Do you think you would have been affected more if Bill was killed?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I was closer to Bill.
But when you guys all came home after the war,
huh?
When you came home after the war, did the family talk about John, or was he kind of?
Not a whole lot. No, not a lot. No, I didn't. No, I don't remember doing that.
When you came back home to San Antonio, were there buddies from your high school that had been killed?
I don't recall that. I know, not that I know of. I don't remember.
What life advice do you want to give to future generations?
I don't know that I'm qualified to give advice to future generations.
Well, I believe you are, so what's the advice?
I'd have to consider that to be serious about it. I don't know. Get an education. Get a good education.
What would you want to say to all of the men who were killed overseas in the war?
I'm very sorry about it. I mean, I don't know. What can I say? I don't know. I'm sorry. It's a bad way to go. They made a big sacrifice.
Were you afraid of getting killed in the war?
You know, that's strange because I didn't think I would be. Somehow or another, I just didn't feel like I would be.
Are you afraid of death?
I guess so. I don't look forward to it. No, I guess I am. Yeah.
What do you believe happens after someone dies?
I think it depends on how he lived his life. I believe in a hereafter. I believe there is a hereafter. If you've lived a good life, I believe in a heaven and hell. I guess so. Yeah.
What kind of person do you want to be remembered as?
Honest, trustworthy, decent, kind.
2 final questions.
Huh?
I have 2 final questions. Tell me the story about the sergeant.
But what?
Can you tell me the story about the sergeant?
The sergeant? What sergeant?
The one you didn't like. Just tell me the story.
That was Sergeant Percival. Sergeant Percival was the chief sergeant in our unit, the 6th Marine Regiment, headquarters company. He was a master sergeant, and his name was Percival. And Percival and I did not get along. That's all I can tell you. I challenged him to fight, and he wouldn't fight. That was a mistake. I mean, you know, as a first sergeant, he had a lot of power, and I did a lot of mess duty as a result of that. He didn't like me, and I didn't like him.
And what did you vow to do?
I vowed when I was discharged, if I ever saw him, that I was going to beat the hell out of him. And you know what? I saw him after that. And you know what I did? Nothing, because the word was out that if you did anything wrong after you were discharged, they would haul you back. So I saw him afterwards, but I did nothing. Okay, Andy was a Norwegian from up there in North. Oh, it was Andy. He was the first one killed in Guadalcanal. He had the same job I had. He was a scout, and he was killed on Guadalcanal.
Were you with him when he was killed?
Huh?
Were you?
Oh no, I wasn't with him. He was assigned to another rifle company.
Was it only 1 scout per company?
Huh?
Was there only 1 scout per company? How many scouts?
Yes, there was only. I think it was only 1 scout per person. Yeah.
Were you ever? On Tarawa, though. Tarawa is famous for all the dead Marines.
Yeah, Tara was. Yeah.
When you came onto the beach, did you see the?
Yes. Saw a lot of dead Marines. Yes.
And they were just laying there?
Dead. Yeah, they were dead.
And what happens to the bodies when they're in the sun?
Well, they started smelling bad, and you know they didn't. But finally, they had a unit that would come pick them up, you know, and take them away. But you got so. I know I could be next to a dead Japanese and eat my sea rations, but with a Marine it was different. You couldn't do that. I mean, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That was Mr. Mapes calling me.
What was he?
Hey, we're going to have something to eat? He's going to eat with us?
Why won't
Why
you
not?
stay and have dinner with